Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about Superman Lois Season 4. We're going to be discussing a sneak peek that was shown exclusively at Comic-Con that wasn't released online. It is not the same sneak peek that we saw that was Superman fighting Doomsday. This is something completely else, so if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos later this year. Okay, so we're going to be digging into this sneak peek and the description of what it is, because as I said, it's not released online, so I can't show it to you as much as I want to watch it myself, and as much as I want to show it to you guys. Yeah, we're just going to have to read off the description and kind of interpret what we think the visuals and everything are in this scene. Also, we've got a new poster for Season 4, plus we've got an interview with the showrunners of the show that gives some interesting insights that we haven't necessarily talked about yet. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. So this is how the description goes for the sneak peek that was shown at San Diego Comic-Con at Superman Lois's final season panel. The first episode is titled The End and the Beginning. And so this is how it's been described online. Lois is in the kitchen looking at the "it went by so fast" picture frame. We flash back to moments after Clark told Lois he's Superman. She's looking at the same picture. Clark comes in and tells her his mum left the farm to give them some privacy. And I think that picture frame, by the way guys, just to jump in here, is the same picture frame that we saw at the start of the full trailer the other day. But let's continue with this. So she asks why he told her. He tells her how much he loves her. She asks about him overhearing what she said to Janet about falling in love with him. Even the part about him being dorky, we saw that scene in an earlier season where he listens in. He says that he is a little bit dorky and that it was the best day of his life. So Lois kisses him and suggests they go upstairs. Clark, embarrassed, says it's his first time. Lois thinks he means the first time in his childhood bedroom and says they'll turn Cal Ripken around. He clarifies what he means. She says she loves him and that he's the only one for her, and tells him he's about to have a new best day of his life. We come back to the present and Lois presses her ELT and asks Clark where he is. Obviously he doesn't respond, and so we go to space where we see Clark and Doomsday fighting in an asteroid belt. Punches are thrown, heat vision is blasted. Clark seems to get the upper hand, but he is clearly bruised and bloody. So that is the scene that we saw that was released. So there was this scene before, and then what follows after is that massive fight scene that was released online. And so that's the extra sneak peek that was revealed exclusively for the audience at San Diego Comic-Con. So I believe that is actually how the episode starts. This could very well be the very first scene of the season, because we're gonna jump back in. Lois is gonna be like, "Clark, where are you?" Because normally Clark can hear because of his super hearing, and he always hones in on Lois's voice. But obviously Clark is in the middle of this massive fight with Doomsday as it cuts back to the present day. And so to break this down, we know that we're gonna get a decent amount of flashbacks this season. And obviously that is a tool to keep Tyler in the show, keep him relevant, because if he was completely dead, obviously after he dies, it would be a complete waste to have Superman not be in the show, despite the show being called Superman Lois. Even though I think the death of Superman is the right way to go, and I think it's a great story. So I think this sounds like quite a sweet scene, especially as it's like early days, Clark and Lois telling them how they feel about each other, and the fact that they're there in Smallville together, and it's just after Clark has told Lois that he is Superman. Obviously we saw that in a previous season. I believe in the very first episode we saw that in a flashback, and they're going to extend on that and potentially extend on other flashbacks that we previously seen, because we have had like a fairly big amount of flashbacks in the past, but they weren't necessarily about Clark and Lois specifically and seeing their time together when they first got together or just before. Like we've seen bits and pieces like that big interview back in season 1 where Lois interviews Superman for the first time, where he listens in and hears about, you know, how she feels about him and everything. And then also we've had different flashbacks to when Clark was younger, so now it would be interesting to get more of their working relationship and their actual relationship back when they were first starting things out. And so it's obviously very nostalgic because Lois is fearing for her husband's life, fearing for Superman's life, because Doomsday is pretty much unstoppable, and you saw that, like, he was nearly dead at one point and it looked like Superman got the better of him at the end of season 3, but he obviously got up and took Superman into space, and that was the last that Lois has seen of him. So let me know down in the comments below, what do you guys think of the sneak peek? Obviously it's nothing too crazy, but it's interesting that this is the scene that will precede what we already saw with that sneak peek that was released online between Superman and Doomsday. So let's move on to the next topic. We got a new poster for season 4 of Superman Lois, and this is a really cool poster. It's been drawn, painted and designed. I'm not sure who the designer is, but you guys can find it online. It is a very cool poster that really showcases some of the action. Obviously we got that iconic look at Doomsday and Superman. That's how we ended season 3, with that cliffhanger, and I like that they've kind of recreated that alongside Clark and Lois together, just onto the side of it. I mean, the art style is just insane. Like, I'm loving these posters so far. This is great. And then we had that one with Superman's cape floating in space, teasing the death of Superman before they ever confirmed it. And so you got Lex here. Lex is obviously going to be a huge thing this season. You got the kids as well, and you got Metropolis in the background. We know Metropolis is going to be a bigger thing because we are going to do those flashbacks, and obviously Smallville is going to be a big thing, but you know, what can you really include? I guess you could include the diner in the background, but we are definitely flashing back a lot to Metropolis and seeing their early years. And obviously I think Lex is based out of Metropolis because his company's there. We know that Yvonne Chapman is going to be playing Amanda McCoy, who's going to be a big deal, and she's been running LexCorp for the duration that Lex has been in prison, so we'll definitely go back to Metropolis. And then at the top of the poster we have Superman, and his cape is floating in space. Obviously this is all drawn, so it's not completely lifelike, but it gives you a good impression of, you know, what they look like. Lois is there. She actually looks a bit younger in this. Obviously that's just the way that it's been drawn and painted and everything like that. But yeah, this is such a great teaser. I love that they're commissioning stuff like this. So this was released to people who were actually at the San Diego Comic-Con panel. Then it was released online by the Superman Lois account on Twitter the other day. And so this teases the final season. Obviously we got that 2-hour premiere on October 17th, so get ready for that, guys. But let's move on to our final topic of today's video. This is from TV Line. They did an interview with the showrunners of the show, that being of course Todd Helbing and Brett Fletcher, who is the new co-showrunner for the final season. And they teased to do with the returning characters who were previously cut. He said, "They all came back and we made sure to give everyone who had been a series regular on the show a closing out to their character arcs. They all get a real story this season, and you kind of know where they are into the future." Then Todd Helbing goes on to say that Smallville really becomes a massive character this season in a way that it hadn't been in the first 3. All of the other townsfolk that you've gotten to know, you get to know a little bit more. So I'm not sure if he's specifically referring to the X-series regulars on the show, like Kyle, Lana, Sarah and everyone, or is he referring to like any other people in Smallville? I presume he's just talking about the series regulars who were series regulars in the past. And then they go on to talk about Jimmy Olsen, teasing that instead of making him a super quirky, dorky photographer guy that he is represented as in many adaptations, helping explain that Superman Lois's Jimmy is the life of the party. He's the guy that everybody at the office loves. Everybody wants to be Jimmy Olsen's friend, especially Clark Kent, says Brett. So we developed a story around that dynamic. So I've said this since they first announced that Jimmy was coming to Superman Lois season 4. I thought it was a weird choice, and we're going to have to wait and see how it plays out. Obviously Douglas Smith is playing Jimmy on the show. I don't know much about him, so I don't know how he is as an actor, but it's interesting that they feel the need to switch it up in such a big way, because why would Clark Kent in the comics, like, you would never imagine him wanting to be Jimmy Olsen's friend. It's always the other way around, because he admires Clark for who he is and he wants to be Clark's friend, but they've done a complete 180 on this, and so he's the life of the party and everyone loves him at the Daily Planet, and we're going to see him in flashback, so looking forward to seeing that version of Jimmy Olsen. And then also there was a question, they actually didn't type it up, so I'm going to paraphrase this, but this is to do with Yvonne Chapman's character Amanda McCoy. I've previously said in videos, I did a big video on it the other day, that she is an important character in the comics because she's one of the only people who has figured out that Clark Kent is Superman, and she is the right hand person of Lex Luthor. So they said and confirmed in the interview that she is going to be that right hand person who has been running Lex's company whilst he's been away, and they teased that what the audience should be thinking is, what is her relationship to Lex Luthor? How much sway does she actually have? Is it strictly professional or is it personal? We know in the comics that, you know, it kind of mixes in between both, so they're definitely going to give their own interpretation, and I'm looking forward to it. So it seems like she's going to be a big character and a big presence throughout the season, kind of backing up Lex in major scenes, because she's going to be there. She's kind of the head figure of his company that obviously he's now returning to, and so it'll be interesting to see what role she plays when Superman does eventually come back from the dead, because will she expose that Clark is Superman? Will she go to Lex and tell him? And that will be the kind of defining moment for that character, because in the comics Lex doesn't actually believe her, so we'll see if they do their own interpretation of that. And then the final question of the interview was to do with Superman Lois closing out the Arrowverse, and Todd Helbing kind of skewed away from the question, didn't want to say exactly, obviously they don't want to tease too much or spoil too much, I guess, but he was kind of avoiding saying, you know, they did anything specifically to honor the Arrowverse, because obviously Superman Lois is very to itself. We have had some comments at Comic-Con to do with Tom Cavanagh. It's been confirmed he's definitely coming, but he's going to be playing presumably a new character rather than anything that's linking him to the Flash or anything. So Todd did say that if they had less restrictions this season, they would have liked to bring in other actors, other characters from the Arrowverse, but quite honestly I don't believe that they would have done that, because Superman Lois is so focused on itself that I don't think they care too much about closing the Arrowverse, because really the Flash did that and Superman Lois is just an extension of that, and they're mainly going to be focusing in those 10 episodes on concluding their story, because it really does feel like the Arrowverse is kind of rounded out already, and no one's really expecting Superman Lois to do too much about it. But that pretty much does it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment. It would really help the video out. Also subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos, and you can click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.